Let's dive into Econoline Crush. So the band forms in early 92. Can you share the story of how you came together with the other members? This has to do with you moving cities and reading something in a classified.
Yeah. So okay. So the band that I wrote that first song with that Tommy Cochran picked to win that competition was called One Big Union. Kind of cool because it was named after a union of United Workers in Winnipeg in the, I think it was early 1900s, that shut the city down, fighting for rights and 40-hour week or whatever. Anyway, so that band got some interest from Atlantic Records in LA. And I was working with this manager, Frank Weipert, a legendary Winnipegger, one of the guys that first bring in a bunch of concerts. Anyway, Frank brought us out to Vancouver. I'm out there playing away. And at some point, Frank was like, you're very ambitious, Trevor. And I think, maybe we should try and find you some different management. So I hooked up with Kim and Diana Harris of the Harris Music Group in Seattle. And they managed Queensryche in the beginning. And they were working with, I think, Train on the side or just advising Train or something. And anyway, so I started working with them. One Big Union broke up. And so I was looking for a new project. And I ran an ad in The Stranger. And it was wild, man. Like at the time, grunge was exploding. Like, so, hey, this is Bobby from Boston. I just, got to town. Hey, I'm here from Atlanta. Like it was people from everywhere around the world were coming to Seattle. So you had your pick if you wanted to put a band together. And then I tried out singing for, he produced Candlebox. I think he's played guitar in Queensryche for a while. The band Sweaty Nipples. Oh gosh, his name's going to skip me. Anyway, I remember the singing this in rehearsal. Shake your money, make us shake. It was wild. Anyway, I remember that he was like, I don't know if you're the right guy, and I was like, I don't know if I want to sing this kind of music. And then I looked in The Stranger, and there was this ad looking for, do you like Nine Inch Nails, Skinny Puppy, Nitzer Reb, Depeche Mode, Front 242, all of this stuff, right? Like, and I just sort of started to get into this industrial thing. I thought, this is really interesting music. Like, I'd been kind of a very rock and roll guy, drifting more into punk and alternative. I loved Killing Joke. I liked The Cult. So I started to listen to this industrial stuff, and I was like, this is interesting. And the guys that put the ad in was in Vancouver. So I went back up to, I was staying with the management in Seattle at the time. I went back up to Vancouver and met with Tom Ferris. Now, Tom Ferris was in this band Mauve, and Mauve was the original reason for starting Network Records to put out Mauve Records. And then they put out, obviously Skinny Puppy, Sarah McLachlan, a lot of great artists, but Mauve was the first band. And so Tom had these songs that he created in his bedroom studio. And of course, he's coming from this dance, electronica, EDM, industrial vibe. I'm coming from the world of rock. His songs are 12 minutes long, like 20 minutes long, like just the same part for, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So we worked together. So the first songs that Tom and I wrote together, like TDM, Wicked, Cruel World, all the stuff that was kind of on the Purge EP was Tom and the other guys, but mainly Tom Ferris. So it was really wild, but Tom didn't want to go out and go out and tour. So we ended up just parting ways, and I took the band and the ideas and went with it, and he kept going with his thing.
And what's the story behind the band name Econoline Crush? You guys originally wanted just Crush, but you thought it's too generic, or it's probably already been taken, so you added something to it?
Well, it's wild because it's like, so in the same place, that house where Tom was doing all this stuff, we're all sitting in the living room. And back in the day, like, you couldn't send MP3s. So you had to send a DAT tape, which was a audio tape, little tape. and you would FedEx it to the label. You'd FedEx every day at the end of the day, whatever. So we had made these demos and finished them up, mastered them, and we called FedEx to come to the house to pick up the thing to send it off to New York, to East West, I think was where it was going to go. And we're sitting there and we go, shit, we got to have a name. And Tom goes, well, I just thought going to call it Crush, right? And I said, dude, you know, there'd be like 1,000 bands called Crush. And somebody said Cadillac Black, and somebody was all these different things, and the FedEx driver's kind of getting like upset. He's got to go. He's on a schedule.
Your whole career depends on this moment, which is funny,
right? You know, but like at the same time, we're kind of like, we don't really care. Like we've been so into the music and just focused on that we didn't even think about this. And I said, listen, somebody's like, you know, what does this mean? It's got to become from me, please. I said, I listened to everything I ever listened to in my dad's van, and it was a Econoline van. And then somebody, I think it was Yaremko, the bass player, says, well, Econoline Crush. And I went, Econoline Crush. Look, I'll put it on here. We can change it later. And so I write it down and we send it off, right? But then when we get signed and we get, Ford is going to sue us for the Econoline thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And then I forget who it was, but somebody that was working at EMI did a little digging, and I guess there's like about 1,500 Econoline cleaning, Econoline like movers, Econoline whatever. And we were way down. He goes, they'll never get to your case in your lifetime. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it. And so that was fine. But then we signed this label, Restless in America, and they didn't like that story. Like it didn't. I don't know. It wasn't. So they got this guy, and you can probably find it online, where he says that Econoline Crush is the subject of a French novelist's thing or something, where it's a drug you take that gives you eternal optimism. And that's what was on our bio when we first toured the States about our name. And then I would just go out and debunk it in every interview. Like it was the craziest thing. Like they created, I don't know if it was like good or bad. I don't know, but at least, you know what I mean? Oh, nuts.
That's kind of cool. Let's jump into the band's discography. So everything starts with you guys in 92. You start writing demos and then you record a demo. This is the Purge demo in 93 that you release.
Yeah. So like the one big union band I was with before had worked with this producer, Dale Penner, and I liked him a lot. Very skilled, still making great records. And so I asked Dale if he'd be into it. And we went into Mushroom Studios and we recorded Purge, 5 songs, I think. And that, but when we went in to record Purge, we already had interest from EMI. Like we figured at the very least they would distribute it. And if you remember at that time, which was kind of interesting, there was this label called Caroline in the US. And so what they did was they put Gish by Smashing Pumpkins out on Caroline, even though they knew that they were going to sign it to Virgin or one of the big labels. It was already a major label signing, but they wanted to give them some street cred. So they put this EP out on Caroline, right? See, this was in the 90s. This is how that worked. So our little Purge thing was kind of like that. EMI puts it out, but like it was like this indie thing. And then Affliction then was the first kind of thing.
So how did you originally catch the attention of EMI?
Well, we had sent like, those letters are epic when you get those rejection letters. Wow. They just like,
they're so polite though, usually.
Yeah, they are polite.
After careful consideration.
Exactly. After careful consideration and much or many hours of listening to your beautiful music. No, how did this work? David Bendeth, I think, was the first one. I'll never forget this. I was vacuuming. He was working at, where was he working? BMG. He's a producer and he was an A&R guy. I remember I was vacuuming. I'll never forget this. Vacuuming my carpet in my rental house in East Van. And the phone rings and I pick it up and it's like, hello, Trevor Hurst. I'm like, yeah, who's calling? This is David Bendeth, like the A&R guy. And so I knew that we must have something if this guy's calling me at home. So we got some rejection letters. He called and he was interested, and we were going to go out to Canadian Music Week. And so Kim and Diana Harris were kind of in the mix at that time, these Seattle people. So they sent stuff out. We just kept sending it out. And then the big break came. We were going across Canada. Actually, the patron saint of music in Canada is Frank Lafredo, who lives in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And he had a club called Crocs and Rolls back in the 90s. And we rolled in the day after Bad Brains played there. And when we got there, we found out that there was no way financially that we could make it from Thunder Bay to Toronto to make it to our slot for Canadian Music Week. We didn't get some of the guarantees. We had some trouble on the road, and we were bummed. And I remember we were sitting in the band. Oh, God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm tapped. I don't know where I'm going to get the money. We can come back next year. And oddly, it was weird. We all we all went out and bought these Harley Davidson shirts from like thrift shops, so we could all be in Harley Davidson. So we kind of dressed up as bikers for the gig. I don't know why. It was just one of those moments. And we went, and there wasn't that many people in Crocs and Rolls, but in our brain, it was the last gig in front of people could be for months. So we just played our hearts out. And Frank sees this, and he comes to me after the gig, and he's paying me, and he goes, like, holy crap, you guys, I had Bad Brains in here last night, and you just blew the doors off the place. What's going on? And I tell him, yeah, we're not, we're supposed to go to Canadian Music Week. EMI might sign us, but we can't get there. So we're going to head back, and if you'll be so kind as to book us around this time next year, we'll come through and we'll get to Canadian Music Week. And he goes, well, what are you doing for the next 2 days? And like, are you open? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, how about I book you for 2 days and I'll give you enough money to get there. I'm like, you do that? And he goes, I'll feed you. My mom will cook you pasta every night. You'll be good. So we did that. We got to Canadian Music Week. We played at the Rivoli. Every A&R person in the country showed up. It was rammed. We had a great set. And EMI signed us the next week.
Wow. Man, he made you an offer you can't refuse.
Exactly. Yeah.
So David Bendeth's son Miles was a student when I went to school for audio engineering and entertainment business management. So I know him, and David has actually provided kind words for some of the guests on the podcast.
No way.
And man, for our listeners that aren't familiar with him, he's produced, he was a big artist. He's produced a bunch of art. He's done albums for Papa Roach and Breaking Benjamin, and I believe Paramore. He's like one of the giants in production.
Yeah. Yeah. So having him call me was bizarre. And like, I really didn't know at first if it were like all these things happen to you and you're in like your bubble kind of like, I look back on it and go, holy smokes, you were talking to David Bendeth. But I was like, just finished back. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll see you at Canadian Music Week. Like as cool as a cucumber, like not even knowing. Right. Oh my gosh. But like, yeah. I knew, though, that he was somebody, and I knew that if he tracked down my phone number, then we must be doing something right,
So we have a fan question sent in from Cam Brio from Instagram. His question is, what are some of the biggest differences between performing now and back in the 90s?
Technology, wow. Like in the 90s, we didn't have in-ear monitors, which are basically headphones, and you can isolate certain instruments in your in-ears, and you don't have to sing over top of those searing guitars. And like 90s grunge, we were really loud. We were a loud band. We still are fairly loud, but that cacophony of noise, and like we couldn't, so how we did things was really kind of crazy. We split out, we did a Y cable, and so we'd split out the sequence to and we ran a just crude system. We ran left and right into like this big amp, like no mixer, straight in, cranked it up and put it to these Elises or whatever, somewhere. What's the Long and McRae brand? Elite. Yeah. Anyway, side fills, 15s with a horn, just blasting, just the sequence that we played to through the side fills, and then here and then the guitar. So it was so loud, and that to me was just like that technology thing changed and made it a lot easier to tour. Now, in terms of the audiences and stuff, the '90s was, everybody talks about their decade and gets nostalgic about it, but really there was something special about the way that music was being created and presented and everything in the '90s. Like we were kind of pushing back against that established cookie cutter thing that they had going on in rock, and they had the cookie cutter in pop, and then all of a sudden this guy in a flannel jacket shooting dope from Seattle has the biggest hit, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and the world changed overnight. Well, and you know who doesn't get enough credit is Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, because Pretty Hate Machine was selling solid through that time too, and nobody really picked up on it in the mainstream stuff, but the kids knew what was going on.
Yeah, by the time that he got to Downward Spiral, that's where it became mainstream and everybody knew about it.
Yeah, exactly.
As a band that uses elements of technology and programming and drums and all that, has technology made it easier for the live show? I'm just picturing maybe crude technology you had to use to have everything live versus now it's like, oh, you have a MacBook and this software and a backup and this, and is that relevant?
Like it's just different now. Like I always thought that, like initially we got a lot of grief from other bands and other techs because we played to a sequence. And I mean, we were so early into that our first sequencers, like we would sequence the entire show, then record that programming to a stereo VHS tape. The television, the visual, we would put the click on, and then the audio left and right we'd send to front of house. The downside with that was it was an analog or whatever system, so if the tape stretched, it'd be out of tune, like a little bit slowed down. So that was, then we went to an embedded click on a DAT tape. So the embedded click, the DAT tape would only have left and right, and you just had this clank, 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 clank that went through all of your songs. But hey, it was industrial music. And then finally we went to running like an 8-track, so we would sequence everything. But again, like I would have to make the set the same way we would make back in the day mixtapes. You remember mixtapes where you'd sit there, you'd put a song, and then you'd stop the cassette tape, and then you put another song and all that crap. Well, I would have to do that with 2 DAT machines. We'd be out on the road, and I would start the set. We'd put, say, Home was the first song. So I'd record Home, and then I would stop the top one that was feeding in the bottom one. I'd still keep it recording after it and pretend like, hello, Cleveland, how's it going? We are Econoline Crush. We come from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I hope everyone's And then I'd leave that space, stop, and then I'd insert the next song. So the drummer would just have to press play, right? But we design it that way. So that's how we made the sets. And then now, there's computers and Ableton, and it makes it a lot, or any system you want to use, it makes it a lot easier. But it's just, again, like it's still the same concept. Like it's just different tools to get you there. And I think I don't begrudge anybody using any technology, including whatever they want, a tuning vocal live, if that's what they need to do. It's about the message of the song and conveying the message of the song. If the audience likes that song and they want to hear that song, and this is how you perform that song, and everybody in the room was happy, who cares how you achieve that goal? It's the emotion and the magic of the music. So that's the way I feel about it. Everybody knows that there are fantastic and wonderful musicians, and it takes those people to create music regardless of what you're using. It's the ideas and the skill sets and everything. Is it helpful using, say, even now they're getting into AI? Is it helpful to use AI? I haven't really a lot, but my experimenting with it, I think it could be useful. I don't know where it's going to go, but again, people used to think that us using a sequencer was the end of music, so I don't think it is. Human beings will always find a way to persevere.
So in 1994, you guys released the Purge EP. What thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you now when you think back to this EP that really kickstarted the entire musical journey you've been on since then?
Um, we were, yeah, it was the beginning and it was exciting. I remember our first video shoot. I remember our first video shoot, I had the worst case of imposter syndrome because I walked into the video shoot and I looked at the crew and all these cameras and cables and everything everywhere. And I looked at the crew and the people making it, the grips and the camera operators. And I go, man, all these people look cooler than me. Like, what the heck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just felt, oh, it just felt like so overwhelming. But at the same time, man, we were like these group of young guys on a mission. And like, I remember making that video for TTM and just like, we were just going crazy, like just putting it all out there. We wanted this to be so cool and so over the top. And yeah, it was fun. It was so fun. And start our journey with it. It was almost like you kicked the door in, you know?
And the title TDM, that's Trevor's Death Metal, is that correct?
Yeah, I once had a conversation with Terry David Mulligan, who was convinced it was about him.
His
I'm like,
theme
no,
song.
Terry. Yeah, this is. I did not write this about you. Wow, oh man, it was funny.
And the EP was recorded in like a week.
Yeah, yeah. We were pretty tight. Like we knew all the songs. We've been playing them for a while. We had the programming dialed. We had the guitar sounds dialed. We had the bass sounds dialed. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we had to just go in there and just bang it out, and we did.
And do you remember the first time hearing your music on the radio? I don't know if it was TDM or something before that.
No, it was actually, I think, like my personal memory that if somebody says, you remember the first time you heard your music on the radio or whatever, was actually, it was the memory that I have, and I'm sure there was something before this, but I remember being in a restaurant that had much music on the TVs, which is bizarre. And looking up and seeing Home and just being like, whoa. Like, I'm sure I heard it on the radio before, but I think it was just sort of the randomness of the location and everything. It was just like, wow, like, hey, there we are, you know, and it felt pretty cool.
You mentioned Queensryche earlier, so I had their guitarist Michael Wilton on a few months ago, and he was saying that him and some of the other members, they were teenagers when they recorded their original demo, and they were working in a factory, and a few of the members were working, and then the song from their demo came on the radio in the factory, and they remember telling their bosses like, "That's us," and the bosses didn't believe them. They're like, "No, that sounds like some British rock band. That's not you guys." And then eventually they get signed and they quit that job. But that's their first memory, is just being in a warehouse and hearing their own song on the radio.
Well, see, and now you just triggered this thing. So, okay, I was in Seattle and I had this DJ friend at KNDD. And so they would play demos of bands and they loved Econoline Crush for whatever reason. And I remember we were having a production meeting in our car. Musicians know what that means. And so we were kind of like sitting there, you know, hot box and roll the windows down. And we were listening to the show on KNDD. And it was the night that they were debuting Versus. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against 1, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 against 1. You know, it's playing away. And it ends. And then this other song starts. And it's like, and I'm listening to it and I'm just grooving out. I'm like, hey, man, this is all right. And Marco looks over at me and goes, yeah, think? And I go, yeah, I like this. And he goes, well, you should. And I go, why? And he goes, because it's you. And I'm like, what? And they were playing Cruel World on KNDD in Seattle. And I was like, cool. So that was before Home, obviously. So that was probably the first time I heard it on the radio, actually. And then, yeah. And then we had this big laugh because he goes, you're so ripped. You don't even know this is your own music. And I'm like, this is good weed. And away we went.
And you guys got a Juno nomination from this EP?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what did that first Juno nomination mean to you? That's Canada's Grammys acknowledging your talent, your hard work, your music.
It was surreal. I couldn't even believe it was true. It was like, what? Like it was surreal. But at the same time, you think, well, this is all part of it, right? Like you're in it. Like I said, we're in your bubble and you're just like, oh, this is cool. And you kind of think it's I guess this is how it goes. Like you have this duality, right? You have this one side of your mind and your personality is kind of going like, holy crap, and then the other side's going, dude, relax. This is all how it goes, like it's trying to be cool. So it was both of those. But I just remember rubbing shoulders with everybody in the industry. There's like Bruce Culver and like there's Sarah McLachlan. Like it was like, wow, it was crazy.
So there's a cover of a Killing Joke song on the album. What do you love about that song, and how did you choose that song out of, every song that you love? How do you choose that one to be on the album?
I think it was the most, we wanted something that was kind of edgy. I think it was Rob Morfitt that actually picked the song. And I listened to it and I loved it. I was like, yeah, sure. It's not one of their more commercial songs, but I think that was his goal. Give us sort of some, like a deep cut would mean then you're a real fan. This was interesting though. So we're late night doing vocals and I'm listening and listening and listening. And I can't figure out what he's saying. So I phoned EMI. Jody Mitchell was our A&R guy, and I'm like, dude, like I got to get these. And there's no internet, right? You can't like. And I don't know why he didn't call the publisher, but anyway, long story short, I said I don't know what he's singing. Do you know anybody that would know the lyrics? And he goes, well, actually, I have Paul Raven's number because at the time Paul Raven had contacted him because he had that band with Mishi Me. One Life to Live, you don't like to leave it. What was that one called? Do you remember that band?
I know
Ragged
Mishi Me.
Death.
Okay.
Ragged Death. So Paul Raven was one of the founding members of Ragged Death, bass player from Killing Joke. So I get Paul Raven's number and I phone him up. And this is how my friendship with Paul Raven started. And oh my gosh, like I get him on the phone and he goes, you won't know what he's saying. Oh, how the hell would I know? And then we both are listening to the song and we made, so we wrote down all the lyrics and I think it's great. It was included on a compilation over in Britain of Killing Joke's stuff and recordings, and it started my friendship with Paul Raven, who was my rock mentor for my career till he passed. And what a character! I think that was the only reason. There had to be you search for meaning and things. Having picked that cover and getting to meet Paul Raven and starting that friendship, I think was key to my continuing and surviving the business, because he had some great sage advice.
So I have some kind words sent in from someone that saw you in concert around the time of this EP. And to tie everything together, he played keys on the Queensryche album Empire. That was their best-selling album. So this is from Robert Bailey, who's the keyboard player for Strange Advance. He's played for Queensryche, Alice Cooper, and Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. So Robert sent in a huge thing. So he must really like you. So here we go. He says, I met Trevor through our mutual friend Laverne in the mid 90s. It says he'll chuckle when I mention that. Laverne was a great music fan and dragged me down to the town pump to see this band he was going on about. I admit to being a little jaded at the time. Then Trevor came out and within 5 seconds had the audience eating out of his hand. I was blown away by his energy, intensity, and pitch. Dude could sing in tune. Best frontman I had seen in years. Instantly, I felt that there was one band in Vancouver that I wanted to join, and it was his. When I was working as audio director for Electronic Arts, I worked out a licensing deal with Trevor and his label mates to remix 3 of his songs for video games, Sledstorm, that you mentioned earlier, and that was a fantastic experience. We later collaborated on a couple of other things as well. Trevor is not only a great frontman and songwriter, I was thrilled to see that he furthered his education and became active in healthcare with an emphasis on Indigenous communities. It takes a special kind of person to do that kind of work, and it makes me really proud to be counted as a friend. I'd still like to play in his band though. Call me Trev. And he put a crying, laughing face. So that's from Robert Bailey.
Hey, and the two things he's talking about, one of them was amazing. I got a call from Janet York on a Thursday. We need a version of Take Me Out to the Ball Game for Due South for Monday. Can you do it? And I'm like, let me just check. And I text Rob Bailey, go, what are you doing? Do you want to do this? He says, sure. So we blasted that out in a day. And if you check on, I think there's a compilation of songs for that show, Due South. It's on there. And we did this, Rob Bailey plays this really slick bass line. And we did it like, oh man, I'm trying to think of the band. We kind of mimicked it's a bit jazzy, and then it kicks into rock, but it's like he goes boom, 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 and then I'm like, take me out to the ball game, take me out to the park, buy me peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't think I'll ever come back. No. Boom, boom, boom. You know, it's all this slick jazzy thing, and then all of a sudden, but it's one, two. Next, you're out at the old ball game. So it was a trip, man, and he was so creative, and we had so much fun. Oh, it was the best, and it made it to the show.
That's awesome. So in 95, you guys released the album Affliction. There's 3 singles, Nowhere Now, Wicked, and Close. Man, this is such a solid debut album, and I didn't realize the band was that heavy and aggressive on the earlier albums. So I became a fan the next album, The Devil You Know, in 97.
Yeah.
So I was 12 when that came out. So Affliction comes out. I'm too young. So I didn't know at the time that the album was just that heavy and aggressive. How did you guys, that early on in your career, it seemed like you guys had already mastered your craft essentially?
Well, it was not easy, but so in the time that you heard the EP Purge, we had developed some relationships, and we were working with Reese Fober and Ray Fober, who is Reese Fober's father, who played in Art Bergman's band Poison. He was a bass player, but he's a very good engineer and producer. And we went in and worked with him in his home studio in East Vancouver, putting together these songs. So we had a really good idea of what we were wanting to do and trying to do. And we decided to make the record with Reese after a failed attempt with another producer. And we wanted to make it we wanted to encapsulate the emotion and the feeling that we were living in at that time in the 90s. The Seattle scene was intense. I mean, I was very much influenced by it. Rob Morfitt, the guitar player at the time, was very much influenced by it. So it was a kind of concept album. I desperately wanted to capture this feeling of desperation that we picked up in Seattle. Because you have to remember, Seattle was a blue-collar town. People worked at Boeing. They had a lot of tough kind of jobs that, there wasn't a big future. A lot of the musicians and people that we knew from down there were very, they just didn't think they had a future. They were jaded. I don't know what you'd say, but they didn't feel like there was a big future for them. So for us, Affliction was kind of like capturing that. And we lived in East Vancouver. We could see the drug stuff going on. We were flirting with that, and there was other bands that were messing with drugs, and there was all this stuff going on. So it was a really unique and amazing way as artists to try and synthesize that time and put it on a recording. And to me, that's what Affliction was that time, that really dark in some ways moments of rock. And we wanted to get it down on there. And I think there's a lot of eeriness and emotion in Affliction, like especially with the actual song Affliction and the background, like breathing samples and the things. It was fun to be that creative.
The guitar riffs on the whole album are so crunchy and badass. As a guitarist, I was just loving those guitars. And also the snare on Nowhere Now, man, that slaps.
Yeah, that's amazing. And see, okay, so that was mixed by uh, Greg Reilly and no, his older brother. Um, in and it was in Paul Dean's house. Paul Dean had a mixing board in his like studio, home studio, and that's where we mixed it. And what like it was just yeah, like again, like just this all these things came together at the right time, and the way that that was Reese Fober just oh my gosh, like we got some of the really good programming and great sounds, and then oh man, it's going to kill me that I can't remember Greg Reilly's brother's name. Anyway, they mixed the record and it sounds great.
So I'm not sure how to pronounce the song name, but Sycophant or Sycophant?
Sycophant, yeah.
Sycophant. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
songs Close and Sycophant and a few others, your vocals are very aggressive. I mean, they can be borderline screaming. My question
yeah.
is, if we have young vocalists that are listening to this interview, do you have any advice for them on how to be able to sing powerfully, maybe even scream without blowing their voice, without damaging the vocal cords?
Well, it's always about warming up, you know, doing exercises to warm up. I think going and getting some vocal lessons is a really good thing, especially if this is what you want to do professionally and you're going to do it night after night after night. You got to warm up, and then something that I don't do all the time and I should more. Also, cool off. Like when you come off, do some exercises to stretch your vocals to get out of that tightness. And yeah, that and just I think my luck. I was very fortunate in the night that we had the release for Purge. Was the last time I had any alcohol. I took a look around and I went, I have a shot here, a real shot at being, you know, an artist and getting to put out music. And I don't want to blow it by being an alcoholic. So I quit drinking that night. And I think that alcohol is a kind of an enemy of the singer. And yeah, I think that helps a lot. So if you can avoid drinking, please do, and smoking.
So I was able to infiltrate the Econoline Crush camp, and I have some kind words from drummer David Swart. So David says, Trevor is a battle-worn rock soldier, relentless and scarred yet unbroken, still pushing forward with the same fire that first lit his path. His rock and roll spirit is unshakable. So that's from David.
He's a sweetheart. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've had some trials and tribulations for sure, and I think though, like when I think about it, I've been asked a lot, you know, how do you keep going? How did you get past this, or how did you survive that? And I think that with me, music is it's part of me as it's been part of me since I was a kid with my mom, and it's so ingrained now that I don't know what life would be like without it, and I don't even want to know. And so I'm stubborn and I just keep going. Plus, wow, like when we are up there playing music, I'm free. There's nothing that can touch you. You just feel so good. And I'm blessed to have guys, David and Troy and Graham and Dan Arison, my manager. These guys are you know, salt of the earth and very good people. And I've been in a band with them longer than I was with the original lineup in a way, because yeah, the original lineup was only signed with EMI for, I don't know, up to 2000. And we've been doing this stuff ever since.
So in 1997, you guys put out the album The Devil You Know. Man, this is the big one. I'm going to go through a few of the accolades here. So 5 singles: Home, Surefire, Never Enough, All That You Are, Sparkle and Shine, Razor Blades and Band-Aids. All That You Are was a top 10 hit in Canada, top 20 hit in the US. I mentioned before I was 12 when this came out, and All That You Are and Sparkle and Shine were just undeniable hits all over the radio in Canada. The album goes platinum. Do you remember hearing the news that the album had gone gold and platinum?
Um, odd, that never was a thing like for us. It was weird. I don't know where we were, but yeah, I remember when they said it went gold. Um, but it was just like sort of casual. Like it wasn't like you see on some of the shows or you see people with their photo ops. I don't even know if we have a photo op with our gold one. When it went platinum, I remember we were very excited and we were informed at the management office, I think. Sales thing wasn't the biggest thing though. Like I was happy with chart position as well. That was a thing that maybe we thought about. Um, but for me, it was just what would those mean in terms of the shows we could get on? Because that was the important thing. Like, is this going to allow us to have our, like, can we headline? Can we pick? Can we open for somebody? Can we do this? Can we do that? So that was the big thing. That was the stuff that excited me.
Yeah, maybe it's not about the actual plaque or the awards or that it's certified gold or platinum, but it's just a metric that shows how many people are enjoying that album that you made.
Yeah, that's true. And I do know that like years later, I would walk, whatever, I'd be going through my junk in storage or something, and I'd see that award, or I'd put it on my wall in some new place I was staying. And it meant more later. Like it does mean more now, I think, than back in the day. Because back in the day, it was like, again, like just like the Juno nomination, everything else, it's part of this process, right? The voice over here is like, dude, it's all part of it, man. Just keep going. And but now, like, it's kind of cool. You're doing something, you're meeting new people, and they go, well, and you say, well, yeah, I sing in a band. And they go, well, what band? And then you can say, we sold platinum back, in the day. And they go, no way. So it sounds impressive.
I can just picture them casually telling you that it got certified gold and platinum, where they're like, don't forget to do the laundry. Oh, the album went platinum. Don't forget you have a haircut scheduled tomorrow. Like just sandwiched between random stuff.
It kind of was like, it was like, yeah, oh, by the way, it went gold, I guess. And yet I still do not have totals for Affliction. I keep bugging EMI and now Universal. I'm like, has that record gone gold yet? I'd love to know. But it's weird in the music business these days. Is there even a music business?
And what was your life like at the very peak of the success of that album, where it's going gold, it's going platinum, the singles are charting, they're all over the radio? Most people will never know what that's like. Can you give us a little insight into that?
It was crazy. It was heady times, I was never home. I know that one year, I think I was away 320 days out of the 365. I was flying to Europe doing press. We were going and playing shows across Canada. I would go to hockey games or to events and people would stop me. And I would, go to a restaurant, people would stop you. It was amazing though. Like it felt so good. And I think the coolest thing was that you built this, I don't know what it would be like to be famous, to being an actor, being famous but this was something that we like took out of thin air and put all these sounds together and created these songs, and then everybody likes it. Now you're famous for it. It felt good, accomplished, and yeah, like it's I don't even know how to describe it. I'll tell you, I remember later on doing promo for Hurst or something, and remember there was Much Music, and then they had Much More Music or something, and I was doing a Much More Music interview, and the guy I was doing the interview with kind of looked like me a little bit, and so anyway, we started talking, and he says, I have a confession to make. And I go, okay. And he said, the night that you guys opened up for Alice Cooper or somebody, or Kiss, or anyway, in Thunder Bay, I think it was, we went to this bar, my band, and as we were walking in, the manager says, Econoline Crush? And I said, yeah. And we partied at the Econoline Crush after party. as Econoline Crush. And he goes, man, you must have had a great life. And he tells me all these things that happened to him that night, none of the free booze. And I wasn't drinking, obviously, I told you, and all this other stuff. Oh man. And I was like he had the best time. So he actually got to live the rock and roll lifestyle.
He had a better
I,
time than you
I,
had.
exactly. I think like, so what are the, one of the, fame, whatever moments or uh, the one that kind of stuck with me that I thought was so cool uh, at the height of it. And it's not a celebrity thing. It's not anything. It was like we were playing in Madison Square Gardens opening for Kiss. And hey, I'm playing Madison Square Gardens opening for Kiss. Like just listen to that sentence. Like, oh my gosh. And I needed to go to Macy's because I didn't have any jeans that were clean. And so I was buying jeans and I was looking like I was on tour, like my hair was crazy and I'm like all skinny and roaming around. And the salesperson lady comes up and she's like, salesperson says, what are you looking for? I tell her jeans. And she goes, what do you do? I play in a band. Where are you playing? Madison Square Gardens. What? And well, what kind of music do you play? And I stopped. So we're in Macy's, New York City. And I stopped and I listened for a second and I go, this. And our song, All You Are, was playing on the store stereo system. She goes, this is you? And I go, yeah, that's me. That was one of the cool moments, best moments in rock. And I'll never forget that.
And when you guys had finished writing and recording that album, did you have an idea that, okay, this is the one that's really going to break big?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we knew.
No, seriously, I felt really good. Like, it felt so good. Like, we were recording in Sound City. So have you seen the stuff for Sound City, like that Dave Grohl documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it has green shag carpet on the walls. Like in Dirk Diggler when he's going, I need my masters. Yeah, but we can't give you your masters till you pay for them. Well, I can't pay for them till you give them to me so I could sell some records. And then that whole scene. Well, Lenny Kravitz was in Studio B. And we were in A. And I remember Sylvia was like, I said, I really think we should play like some music for like to see if Lenny likes it, Come on, go get Lenny, bring him in here and play him some music. I didn't even know how to work the damn board, right? But we got Lenny to come in and listen to Surefire. And I remember the look on his face. And he looked at me and he just went, man, that's cool. That's some heavy shit. And he was like sincere. And every time we had people, that different musicians dropping by, and just the way Sylvia was, like Sylvia was so enthusiastic about this. And it was such an amazing experience working with her in the studio. Like we would run into all these people. She took us over to Matt Wallace's house. She took me to meet Jack Joseph Puig. We went everywhere in LA and would play the songs for these people, all these different people. And so as we were finishing the recording, like we had no management at the time, Sylvia and I sat down and we made a list of the 5 top managers in rock. And Bruce Allen was the one I wanted because he was Canadian. But then there was just Doc McGee and I forget, there's a bunch. And I remember like saying to her, like, is this a realistic thing? And she goes, Trevor, this is a great record, and we felt like we'd done it. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like if you're good at sports or, like there's times when I'm looking at an audience and I just know, like, you just know, you're just standing there and you go, I'm going to go out here and just, rip this place anew, and you just go out there and you do it. And that's how we felt. Like we were so on fire when we were making The Devil that nothing could stop us. I mean, if we had to sell them out of the trunk of a car, we would have, because we believed that much in that record.
So a couple things for our listeners. So Sound City Studios, this is in LA, and over 100 albums that were recorded there have gone gold or platinum. So this is like one of the legendary studios, and Dave Grohl made a documentary about it, which is awesome.
Yep.
And the other thing is when you mentioned Sylvia, so this is producer Sylvia Massey, who had worked on a couple Tool albums, which is amazing. So yes. What did she bring to the table? I remember reading that she was one of the first producers that actually cared about the lyrics, which would be meaningful to you as a lyricist.
It was that, like, okay, so her upbringing or her way into the music business was she started working at Larrabee, which led to her doing a stint at Paisley Park, working on Prince records. And so she spent like her, I think 18 or 18, 19. Sorry, Sylvia, I can't remember if she hears this. But anyway, she worked with Prince. And then she did the Green Jello record that led to the Tool Undertow record. She then did the System of the Down record, the big with the pick up, pick up. Then she was the assistant to Rick Rubin for a lot of the Rick Rubin stuff, and then that led. And the interesting thing was Greg Fiddleman was the engineer on our stuff for Sylvia Massey. Then Greg Fiddleman went on to be the assistant to Rick Rubin, and he produced Slayer records since then. And there's Greg Fiddleman's settings on Line 6 amps and stuff. So like it's wild, right? The talent that we were lucky to be part and work with.
You put together the dream team for that album.
Oh, it was amazing. It really was. And Sylvia also, just like, I've tried always in our career to be as progressive as possible. I wanted to give a female producer a shot. There's not a lot of female producers in rock. It was important to me to get her involved. But we interviewed a lot, but she was a character, and she was passionate. She was an artist, and she knew how to take us out of our own heads and get the best out of us. And I remember Razor Blades and Band-Aids singing those tracks in, we finished the record at Hipposonic in Vancouver, just the vocal overdubs and some of the vocals. And I was singing Razor Blades there, and it was late at night, and the song is deeply personal, and she kept getting me to do it over and over and over again, and I was getting frustrated. But what she wanted me to do was to crack. She wanted that emotional thing. But at one point of the thing, it was so funny, she just comes over my head, said, "Come on, Trevor, say it like En Vogue's in the room." And I was like, what? Oh, she's something, man. But yeah, she got the best performance. Another time, okay, Hipposonic there, we were doing Hollow Man, which is a song off of Devil, and she's, "I don't understand. What are you trying to say?" And I said, "Well, it's like a phone call to the girl. You're like kind of telling her, like, you're not any good." So it's me having a phone call kind of with this person. And she says, "Hang on a minute." And so she cuts the line off of one of those conventional, home phones. She wires that XLR onto the end of it. And so I'm using a phone receiver as a microphone. I go into the lounge. She gets a big comforter and a pillow. She covers me up with the comforter. She puts a pillow on my head, lays me down in there, turns this TV on, cranks it halfway up, puts the headphones on, and goes, "Now let's get to work." And I laid there and sang that song into the phone.
Now that's a producer.
Yeah, that's a producer. Like the whole scene, right? She's all about it. It's an experience, and you got to get into it. And I love that about her. Still do to this day.
So 3 of the singles from the album charted in the US on the Billboard and mainstream rock charts and the modern rock charts. Could you feel a big difference between having hits in Canada and then having radio play in the US?
Oh, it's a big country, and yeah, it's huge having songs, because when you have songs played in the US, it does wash back over into Canada. When you have hits in Canada, it doesn't wash into the US really. I just remember like being so busy, like we were working on, EMI was working on getting us established in Europe at the time. We were doing some touring in the States. And so I can remember like being picked up, say, at 7 in the morning from the tour bus, and then going and doing a morning show for some rock station, then driving, an hour or two over and doing another morning show at the end of that, whipping and doing a lunchtime thing somewhere else, doing a couple European phoners, then maybe catching the drive time thing in another city or in the States at the time, as well. They had these buildings which would have 4 or 5 radio stations for 4 or 5 communities, but centrally located, you know. So I would do a bunch of interviews there, maybe do a little bit of press, photo shoot. So I would show up sometimes at the gig, having not seen the venue, no idea how big the stage is, how small it is, how big the club is, nothing. Like, it's dark. I pull up, it's dark. I run into the tour bus, get my gear on, get ready to play. And then the sound man or whoever would come up and check, make sure I'm good, are we good? And then, you know, warm up, drink some water. And you'd walk in and like at that time in the States when we were charting, you'd walk into a 500 seat club or whatever, a little, like whatever, the local rock bar, and it'd be rammed. And you'd be just like, what? Like, I can't tell you, like, that was mind blowing. Like, just, you know, you're working all day, being gripping and grinning. And then, you know, you're like sort of sitting for a moment, just like, gosh, I hope it's good in there. And you open the door and you're just like, what? No way. Okay, let's go, guys. And the guys are all smiling. And yeah, like, it was so much fun. Plus, we did these radio festival shows, which were like, that's like summer camp for rock bands. There's like everybody that's on the radio is there. You know, it goes Chili Peppers, Marilyn Manson, Green Day, Sponge, you know, Orgy, Violent Femmes, Econoline Crush. You know, you're a part of this thing playing at 4 PM, but still you're part of it, and you're hanging out at catering. And yeah, it was just the best. It kept us busy.
So we have some kind words sent in from a platinum selling bass player that absolutely loves the album The Devil You Know. So this is from Dave Benedict, the bass player for the platinum selling band Default. And this is what Dave has to say. He says, when I first moved to Vancouver, The Devil You Know by Econoline Crush had just dropped, and I had it on repeat while I was delivering parts for Ford. Good thing they didn't sue you. Yeah. The album was a wall of crushing guitar tones, relentless hooks, and one of the most commanding voices I'd ever heard. Fast forward to 2022, and I'm behind the camera shooting a music video for the very band that soundtracked my early Vancouver days. Even better, I got to know Trevor, not just as the voice blasting out of my speakers, but as a real, rounded, solid human being. He absolutely did not disappoint. Definitely one of those full circle feather in the cap moments. That's from Dave Benedict, Default.
Oh, he's so kind. Yeah, that was fun having him. He directed Invincible video, and he has always been somebody, you know, that is just at the forefront of music, like, and sort of style and vibe, and he always brings it. I loved what he did with the video, and I love working with him, the way that he is as a person. He's a great guy. I'm very fortunate to call him a friend.
What's the story behind the album title? So The Devil You Know, is that from the quote, something like, you know, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know?
Yeah, like there was so I had broken up with a girl I dated for quite a while, since the beginning of Affliction. We'd been together probably, I think 4 years, and it was this feeling. I was like, I couldn't figure out what it was or why the situation was happening, and it was kind of coming apart. And I remember thinking, well, like, for real, you're going to go out there into these crazy shark infested waters, you know, and that's sort of where that the devil you know came from. It's like, well, it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And it's also like, yeah, it was just really interesting the way that it played in our minds. Like, we felt like after Affliction, it also kind of described the music industry to us in a way. You know, it was the devil that we knew, and we were trying to work within that system. So it had a duplicity of meanings.
Another band that you toured with around that time is Joy Drop, and I have some kind words sent in from Joy Drop drummer Tony Rabelau, who's gone on to become the drummer for the platinum band Bedouin Soundclash. And this is what Tony has to say. He says, in the heyday of Much Music, I remember seeing Econoline Crush videos and becoming a fan. I was so thrilled to find out that my band Joy Drop's first tour in '98 would be opening for them. Trevor is a talented, dynamic singer and frontman and a great guy. We had a great time with him and his band on the road. We're forever grateful to Econoline Crush for giving us our first touring experience as a band. So that's from Tony.
Oh, that's sweet. we wanted them on the road because I thought that single was solid, and I thought the band was super cool. And oh yeah, he's a great drummer. And Tom, bass player, wicked. Oh, nice guy. Just yeah, and Tara obviously is a wonderful person too.
So in 2001, you guys released the album Brand New History. There's 4 singles. You Don't Know What It's Like, Make It Right, Trash, and May I Go. Were you guys feeling pressure to try to follow up the monster previous album?
It was yeah, and the interesting thing is so You Don't Know What It's Like was written pretty close to the end of that album cycle of The Devil You Know. And it was kind of the first song written for Brand New History. But we had worked, and I personally had worked very hard through that album cycle and was kind of burnt out a little bit and wanted to like, we were anxious to write, but I wanted to like expand how we wrote, change how we wrote, maybe, write with some new people or just try and bring more creativity to the process. So Dan, Ziggy, and I were working on this song, and I listened to You Don't Know What It's Like, and I was like, this is really strong. Like, I really like this. Now, what do you guys want to do with this? Like, is this the beginning of this record, or is this something else? And so I said that exact same thing to EMI Music Canada. I said, I don't know if this is the beginning of this new record or something else. And EMI Music Canada said, it's neither. I don't hear it. And I'm like, what? They're like, nope, we don't hear it. So I was a little puzzled, and I got on a plane and I went to Los Angeles, and I went into the Restless Records offices and met with Bill Hine there and Joe Regis, and said, guys, I have this song. I think it's a really good song. EMI doesn't think it's that great. Would you take a listen and let me know what you think? They listen to it and go, holy smack, it's a hit. Let's go. And I go, so what do I do with it? Is this the beginning of the new record, or just do a soundtrack thing that buys us a little bit more time till we can figure out who we want to, whatever. So they go, I think the soundtrack thing is a good idea. Who would you like to produce it? And I said, well, Dream. And they go, Dream. I go, Bob Rock. And they go, done. And so there was this movie coming out. Do you remember well, you wouldn't remember, but you've probably seen it. There was a movie called Heavy Metal. It was a first animated kind of rock movie. And it was so cool, right? And so this was the sequel. So I wanted to be part of it. Turns out it wasn't that great of a movie. So we just ended up being in the credits. And there's a Billy Idol story to go with this too. But anyway, we went and we recorded this thing with Bob Rock. And that's where it landed. The most interesting part too, besides the Billy Idol part that I can tell you later, was as we were going to the studio to meet with Bob Ezrin and the whole team working on the Billy Idol track, Bill Hine hands me this book. He says, maybe we could put it on this soundtrack, but I think we've already done a deal for the soundtrack for this movie. And he hands me this book, and I look at the cover. It's really cool. Fight Club. He goes, yeah, we're making it to a movie this year. And I read the book, and I was like, phoned him back after I read the book, and I was like, can we? He goes, no, Dust Brothers locked it up. And I was like, ah. So, but it was just so cool at that time to be in the pocket, right? You're in the system. You are part of the entertainment industry, to know like 2 or 3 years in advance that they're going to make this movie called Fight Club with Ed Norton and Brad Pitt, But anyway, so if I could deviate and go into the Billy Idol story, after I've convinced them, like, I can't believe how easy it was to convince them that we're going to go record You Don't Know What It's Like. Like, it was, why is this so hard in Canada? I come down here and go, do you hear it? And they go, yeah. Bill Hine goes, you like it? And I go, yeah. And he goes, do you want to meet him? Sure. So he goes, okay, well, they're doing the song for the for this soundtrack for Heavy Metal down with the Ezra down the street there at the studio. So we head down there, and Billy didn't show up that day, but my friend Paul Raven was playing bass on the session. So I'm like, hey, Paul. Joe Bashara, keyboard player I'd met, was working keyboards for it. And we sit in the corner quietly, and they're trying to figure out what to do with this song, Buried Alive. And there's this middle section. And so Steve Stevens comes in with a keyboard part. They kind of don't like it. Ezrin gets all kind of angry. So we're all looking like towards the speakers. The band is all looking that way. Ezrin is on the other side of the board looking towards us. So when the keyboard solo came on, it just didn't kind of fit. And I have this issue with not being able to sometimes control my facial expressions. And I was like, mm. And Ezrin saw it and he was like, okay. And he goes and kicks everybody out. And I thought he was going to get rid of Bill and I too. So we start to get up and he goes, no, you guys stick around. So this begins a 2-hour Bob Ezrin entertainment show, which is unparalleled on this earth. He is funny. He is witty. He is sarcastic, incredibly intelligent, and has a million stories. So it was just like entertainment. It was off the charts. And I enjoyed it immensely. Cut to, I don't know, a month or two later, I asked Joe Bashar, my friend, how's the record going? How's the Billy Idol track going? He goes, we got some issues. And I go, why? And he goes, well, they printed all the artwork. They've done everything for the album. We thought we were good. So it's listed on the track listing as Buried Alive, but we got nothing. I go, what do you mean you got nothing? He goes, well, we got nothing. And I go, you got music though? And he goes, yeah, but like, dude. I go, give me Bob's number. So I phone Bob Ezrin and I go, what's going on with this track? And he goes, oh, I don't know, man. He goes, I think we could be hooped, but we got it's on the thing. Like we've already printed the artwork and we're, you know. So I said, well, send it to me. We were out on the road. We're out in West Virginia or somewhere weird. And I said, send it to me. And he goes, oh, you can't, what do you say? You can't shellac a turd, or you can't shine it. You can't shine a turd. And I can go, well, I could put a good coat of shellac on it. Send it to me. So I went in the studio and the song's called Buried Alive, and we finished it, recorded it, sent it to him. And this was back in the days you couldn't like send an MP3 still. So I put the hotel phone down and put the headphones on it and like played it for Ezra. And he goes, it's pretty good. I think we'll record it. Okay, good. So then wait 2 weeks, hear nothing. I phone Bashar and go, or no, Paul Raven. I phone Paul and go, hey, have you recorded that song yet? Like, is Billy saying my lyrics or what? And he's like, no, I think he doesn't get it, or something's weird with it, or I don't know if he likes it. And I'm like, what? No way. So I think I got a hold of Bob after that. And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. Maybe it's too weird. I thought it was, I think it's okay, but I don't know if he gets it. And I go, well, give me his number. So he gives me Billy Idol's number. And I'm all like in work mode, right? And I'm in the hotel. And I dial up the phone. I'm like, Jesus, guy's not going to get my song. And then the thing's ringing. And then I'm like, holy shit. No. You know, like reality kicks in. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to. And then it's like, hello. And I'm like, shit. And then what do you say? Do you say Mr. Idol, Billy? So I just like, Billy Idol? Yeah, mate. And I'm like, who's this? I go, it's Trevor Hurst. I'm the singer for this band, Econoline Crush, and you know, I'm talking really fast. And he's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, man, I haven't really got into that yet right now, but I'll just have to take another look at it. And I said, well, listen, it's like, when I heard it, it's like taking the chord we're going, and then Steve would change, and then you would follow. It's kind of like punk rock, like, you know, this dan, hey, na, 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 dan, na, na, na. And I go, and so what I did was I anticipated the guitar change. So that's why the melody kind of goes a little bit differently. And I think it'll sound really cool. Like, I mean, I really think you're going to, and besides, like, and this is where I go, and like, cause I'm just like flying, like on the seat of my pants, right? I'm nervous. So I just say this, I don't know why it came out of my mouth, but I go, like, I mean, for crying out loud, you're Billy fucking Idol. Like, you don't need to be led around by a guitar player. You can just sing, and he changes. You anticipate the changes. It's more commanding, and you're Billy fucking Idol. And he goes, you know what, mate? I am Billy fucking Idol, and I'll be Billy fucking Idol till the day I die. So then I get a call a couple days later, or an email actually from Bob Ezrin, and it goes, me and Billy are in the studio. The song's sounding great. Thanks so much for all your help.
Wow, it actually happened.
It happened. It's out there. I have a Billy Idol song credit. Yeah, and
That's
I was so
amazing.
nervous. I was so nervous, because I'm like the music business. Maybe something would go sideways. So I put the line "You're so wicked" in the verse. I went, "You're so wicked, evil and cruel." So I put that "You're so wicked" line in there just so that if somebody said, "You never wrote those lyrics," I go, "Well, then why would I put that there?" You know. So it's like a protection thing, but it all worked out.
That's such a good story. So to wrap up with You Don't Know What It's Like, and we'll move on to the next album. It was a top 15 hit in Canada, charted in the US on the Billboard Active Rock charts, the Heritage Rock charts, the mainstream rock charts. It was in the series Roswell. The song was on Much Music Big Shiny Tunes 4, which went 8 times platinum in Canada. It's the band's most popular song still today on Spotify, has almost 3 million spins. Why do you think people love that song so much?
I think that it's that moment again where you can crystallize something, but when you break up with somebody and they go, "Dude, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine." Your friends are always telling you, like, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine." And in your head, you're going, "F you. You don't know what it's like." And I think it's just that sentiment, like that the frustration. And then I love the little middle eight bridge that Bob helped create when we were in the studio. I feel insignificant. I feel nothing at all. I feel insignificant. And it's just that feeling of just being discarded, being, to somebody obsolete or not needed. It connected. And also just again, Bob's mastery as a producer. There is that push and pull and the tension in the song. Pretty, but then and it gets into the chorus. It's beautiful. It's a really well produced song. And that's why those guys make the big money.
For our listeners who might not know, Bob Rock produced and mixed the Black Album from Metallica that sold 32 million albums. So now you know who Bob Rock is. And
Yeah.
that that song, there's great bass work on that song. And also, is that the best your vocals have ever sounded? I think the vocals sound so good in the verses, the lower register, and in the intensity of the chorus. I feel like it's such a perfect vocal performance.
It felt so good at the time. I think, again, it's just one of those things where it hit. And I emotionally, like at that moment, connected so strongly with that song. I think that that's key as an artist, when you're going in and giving that performance. And it's just, again, mastery of the both Bob and then Randy Staub mixed it and created Randy Staub is a great mixer. He mixes a lot of Bob's stuff. He's done a lot of Metallica and everything. He had this vocal chain, which is for people that aren't studio people, but there's gear that they put on your voice to kind of, compressors to quash it down if it's loud or bring it up when it's quiet, and certain effects to make it thicker or whatever they put on there, these guys mixing away. The combination of those two gentlemen, I think, created a very good vocal sound, and that's and the 1176 is on there. Just, you can hear it. It's great. It sounds great.
That was the first song you wrote going into this album, but it shows up as the last song on the album. I'm curious why it's the very last song on the album when most people put the big single. When someone first plays the album, there's the single and they go, "Okay, I gotta buy this." So just curious with the song placement.
Well, that was weird. And I'm not sure if we thought that it was actually going to go on that record or if we were going to leave it as a standalone single. And I think in the end, we just added it. We felt like everybody had already heard it. The interesting thing, too, is that just for people's knowledge, like Big Shiny Tunes, this compilation that went out was shared by the labels at the time. And I think, what was it? Sony, BMG, EMI, and is that it? Was there another one? Anyway, they would each year, that label would get the to put the compilation together, and it was always or generally hits from the bands. Right, there was the singles, like, so it'd be the single from Foo Fighters, it's a single from Smashing Pumpkins, and they had all been released. I'm pretty sure that every song that was on there was released when we put You Don't Know What It's Like on Big Shiny Tunes 4, and it was the single, we made a video for it, that was where that was released. So that was the first time people heard it, was when it was on a Big Shiny Tunes thing. And that was the only time I think that they've ever done that. So we felt like, as a band, well, we've released that, we put it on a record, and it sold a lot. But they were like, well, we should include it. So I think that's why when all that went down, it was striped on the end.
That's funny. I have kind words from another member of the Econoline Crush camp. This is from guitarist Graham Tucson. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Tucson?
Tucson.
Tucson. And he says, I don't even know how Trevor does what he does. Between rocking the stage hard, working like a maniac as a nurse, and holding it so solid as an amazing dad. It's an honor to share the stage with such a talented, charismatic, and thoughtful band leader. I'm truly grateful for Trevor as a bandmate and even more as a great friend. That's from Graham.
Oh, thanks, Graham. That's very sweet. Very sweet. Graham's awesome.
So in 2008, you guys released the album Ignite. 2 singles, Dirty and Get Out of the Way. This is also produced by Sylvia Massey. So I listened to the entire Econoline Crush discography many times. My favorite songs on that album are Get Out of the Way and Hole in My Heart. Get Out of the Way feels like it would be a fan favorite when you perform live. Does it go over well with the audience response?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah. That was wild. We recorded that record in Weed, California. And there's a sign on the 5 as you head from Vancouver and Seattle down through into California. It says on the sign, weed this way, college this way.
You can't even make that up. That's truth is stranger than fiction.
Exactly. So that was a fun time making that record with Sylvia, reconnecting and working in her crazy studio in Weed, California.
And that song, Get Out of the Way, that was the goal song for the Edmonton Oilers at one point.
Yeah, it was. They came out to that, and then when they scored a goal, it was amazing. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was so fun.
And there's a new version of You Don't Know What It's Like on that album. Where does that come from? It's more like a stripped down piano version.
Yeah, like I don't know what we were thinking, like it would be neat to just redo it, relook at it. And I think what happened was somebody was messing with the piano in the studio one day and went ding, ding, and played it. And then I was like, we should do You Don't Know Like That. And that's just sort of how it happened.
In 2010, you guys put out a greatest hits album. Most bands don't even have one hit. So what does it mean to you to have a greatest hits album?
I think it's cool. At the time, it was freaking me out because I'm like, if we put this out, does that mean we have to stop? Like I was thinking, like, is that the end? But yeah, no, it's cool. It was fun. It was fun putting it out. I want to get that out on vinyl. Hopefully we can.
So in 2020, you guys put out 2 singles, Get Out of the Way and Fight Like the Devil. Did it feel cathartic doing something positive like writing and releasing music during the pandemic where it was such dark, uncertain times?
Yeah, it was. It's unfortunate that, we had started this record label with a character and it didn't turn out, and there was some things went awry, which kind of color those 2 songs. But it was great to be working during the pandemic on music and recording and trying to like Fight Like the Devil was just like sort of the idea was just to stand up for those people that are marginalized, and we could see that during the pandemic it seemed like their services were getting ignored, and so it was something that we felt strongly about. And for us now, like I just those 2 versions were kind of so mired in controversy that in some ways it sucks because the songs that Fight Like the Devil won't get played live ever. Like it just is a dead song to us because of the situation. But nevertheless, making creative music at that time was wonderful.
So we've gone all the way from your earliest musical memory and we've made it to the newest album, When the Devil Drives, comes out in 2023. There's 3 singles, No Quitter, Invincible, and Locked in Your Stone. Invincible and No Quitter are such an awesome 1-2 punch to kick off the album. How did this album come together? I believe it was 15 years since the previous album.
Well, we had gone in, we were working on a number of different things, and Ian Alexander Smith came up as a possible producer and co-writer. And so I ended up going to his house and Kingston and Kitchener, and we just hunkered down and made this record. Just myself and Ian. We had Ricky Tillo came in, played some guest guitar. I think
He plays with Lady Gaga, right? Ricky Tillo.
Yeah, yeah, right. Lady Gaga and Poppy. So this record was kind of, it was strange in its conception, because we were still in the pandemic. I remember I wanted to go home and see my family midway through, and I had to stay in an Airbnb for 10 days and isolate, that whole time. Like, it was wild. But there was a lot of grief that was still being processed, loss of parents, loss of loved ones. Paul Raven died while we were making Ignite. Other musician friends, producer friends, Bill Kennedy passed away. So there was this almost like I think that When the Devil Drives has a reflective tone to some of it. Like I don't know. It's just, it's an introspective record, I think, in some ways. But I'm very grateful for it. The song that touches me the most is Whisper, because I wrote that about pretending to have a conversation with my mother in the afterlife about what life is about and what it means to me, to my kids. Hopefully they'll listen to it. I told them, I said, way down the line, this record is for you. And I think that's what that record actually is a love letter to my kids with some of those rebellious songs attached, but really like Whisper and Stars Don't Shine, and those are songs that are very dear to my heart.
So we have a fan question sent in about that song. So this is from Cinnamon on Blue Sky. And the question is, first of all, thank you for the song Whisper. The question is, what part of himself does he tap into to still bring out all that Econoline Crush ever was?
I believe that music is magic. I know that there's some science to it. There's technical, there's frequencies, all this stuff. But I still have this childlike enthusiasm for making music. And sometimes, like, I know that people have different processes when they're working on writing songs. I like to hear some music, a chord progression, and then I just kind of like let go. Like I'm open. And then thoughts and things will come. And this song came to me like, and I knew that this is what this song was. And it was important. So how do I keep that enthusiasm going? It's like I don't have a choice, and it's part of my healing. This is how I was healing from my mother's passing, was to tell her, sort of, imagine what she would say. Like the first half of the verse is, this isn't what I want. And then when I come in second half of the verse, and then we are kind of singing, she's singing to me and I'm singing to my kids, in that I'm standing right here. I'm whispering in your ear, and that I will never leave, and that I'm going to love them. And I want them to know that, because I've lost my parents, and I wish I had an audio recording or a song where my parents could tell me what they wanted. And it's also for Ziggy, because, I knew something was up when the final mixes came in for this record, and I was supposed to fly down to Los Angeles. And I said, no, I'm going to drive. And everybody was upset that I was driving to Los Angeles, but I had to drive, and I don't know why, but so I drove from Brandon, Manitoba to Los Angeles, to Glendale. On the morning we were going in to listen to the final mixes, I got a phone call from Manitoba Public Insurance. And they asked for me, and we started talking, myself and the adjuster, and she asked me if I had a motorhome. registered my name? And I said, yeah, I do. And she goes, where is it? I said, it's in Creston, BC in storage. And she goes, is there any reason for it to be in the downtown east side of Vancouver? And I said, no, it shouldn't be there. She goes, I'm going to need you to report it stolen. And I said, well, I don't want to report it stolen. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. She goes, write down these numbers. I write down these numbers. And I go, excuse me, ma'am, but I have an appointment at 11:15. It's now 10 after. I need to go. And she says, Mr. Hurst, could you be sitting down? And I said, no. She said, could you please sit down? I'm like, this is really weird. So I sit down, and she says, we found a body in the motorhome. And I knew. And so I hit the floor, and I just lost my best friend, songwriting partner for a bazillion years, and one of the most talented people I'd ever met. And I didn't know. It was just hard. And so going in, I got to say that Jack Joseph Puig is a saint and a beautiful human being, because he had to put up with me falling apart after almost every mix he played. And Invincible was the song that Zig and I had put together. And, Zig wasn't a big part of this record for a number of reasons, because of, just things going on in his personal life and struggles he was having. And it's hard, man, when you lose somebody from your band. And so, yeah, I still make this music and carry this music and play those old songs because Zig matters too. And I want to carry forth his legacy as well, because he's a huge part of this band and a huge part of my life. And that record, Ziggy used to say, needs must when the devil drives. And it's part of the earliest known quote that they attribute to Shakespeare, I believe. And so that's why the record's called When the Devil Drives.
And for those of us that didn't know Ziggy like you knew him, are there any favorite memories that you can share?
He was always so fun, like, and like, he had this saying, like, I just do a freeform freak out. And his freeform freakouts on stage, like, every time, like, I mean, any concert, it was fun. I would look over at Zig, he'd look over at me, and it was like I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd do some crazy move or something, and he'd go, oh yeah, he'd do something crazy, and we just egged each other on. And he was, oh my gosh, like, funny. He was very intelligent, but he was a character, like a true character, like. There's not a lot of those in your life that where somebody is just so different and so enigmatic. You're drawn to this madman, and like, you would, oh my gosh, he just, everything about him was a rock star. He was a rock star from the get-go. I wanted him in my band for years before he finally joined. I bug him all the time. So for people who don't know, he's like the most creative, just oddball character guitar player. He could make sounds on the guitar nobody else could make. He played that thing like it was electrocuting him. I don't think there's anybody more entertaining to watch playing guitar, really. Like, he made me laugh every night. And it was such like, if you were down on stage or struggling, all I had to do was look over at him and be like, and he'd give me this look, and I'd just be like, I can get through this, because the Zig's there. And I'm sad that in the last few years of his life, he just struggled with addiction. He struggled with depression. He had some bad people in his inner circle, and it was hard for him. But I know he's in a better place now, and definitely Heaven's got a hell of a band if he's up there jamming.
So you guys just played a festival in Fort McMurray with, man, this is a Canadian royalty lineup. Our Lady Peace, Glorious Sons, Big Wreck, Fifi Dobson, 3 Days Grace, Matthew Good, I Mother Earth, Econoline Crush. How did that show go? It looked like it was a family reunion. You posted pictures with different musicians and engineers. There was a Matt Good picture in there.
Yeah, I hadn't seen Matt Good in a million years, man, and we got to reconnect after all this time. Had dinner with Edwin and the I Mother Earth guys. Hung out with 3 Days Grace. It was amazing. It was fun. And you know, the thing is, after a while in this business, you're all, no matter what your success is, you've all been through the trenches. And it's really, really fun to talk with people, your peers, about that. And whether it's just the simplest things about a load in somewhere. Do you remember that load in at, oh my God, you know, or riding around in the van? And what's interesting too is nobody, you know, nobody ever talks about how the, you know, swanky the hotel was or how comfortable the tour bus is. It's always those early years. So bands are wondering, you know, like, is this even valid or whatever it is they're doing? It's just like, yeah, it's valid, man. This is the stuff that you will remember for the rest of your life, that piled into the back of a van, making your way to Saskatoon in -40 to play, you know, to 25 people. But those 25 people told a bunch of friends, and the next time you came, it was full. Like, that's the stuff, right? And so it was great to visit, to talk, to reminisce, to talk about the characters that we knew, and to remind each other that what we do now is just as valid as what we did back then. And I always tell these guys, it's great to see you. I hope I see you next year, and on and on and on. You know, like, don't I hate it. I don't want anybody to stop making the music that they make, because it brings me a pleasure to see them doing their craft.
Most people can't relate to what it's like being a professional musician or a touring musician. So it must be nice when you get to a festival and you can talk shop with these guys that actually get it.
Oh, it's amazing. And like, also it's like, we did this show a couple years ago, Rock in the Fields, and I played a bunch of shows with Theory of a Dead Man when I was in the Hurst thing, opening up for them. To know people at the beginning, or you know, over the course of a couple decades, and to watch them grow as human beings, to become men, dads, fathers, entrepreneurs, whatever it is they've taken on in their life, that's really remarkable and really um, uplifting in a lot of ways. Those guys, each one of them, you know, in that band, I remember just the stories and where they're living and how they're, you know, what they're doing in their lives. It's great. And the same thing with running into the guys in 3 days and talking to Neil about Music Matters, and how I'm trying to work on something similar, and just having ideas, and how can we take what it is that we do, you know, and some of the advantages that we have to help other people. And I love when I run into musicians that think that way, and all of the camps seem to be that way in trying to further their goals and some of their you know, charitable causes. I think that's a wonderful thing.
So you guys have a bunch of upcoming shows in BC and Alberta and Saskatchewan. I saw you guys November 5th, 2022 at the Bronson Center in Ottawa with Finger 11. So it was a great show. It was awesome to finally be able to see you guys. If our listeners right now go and buy a ticket to one of these upcoming shows, what can they expect with Econoline Crush in concert?
Well, it's always high energy. It's always intense. It's always this is like us exercising our demons. So if you can imagine people trying to shake the demons out of their bodies, that's what's happening up there. And we are yeah, we just like to play and be as authentic and as honest to the music as we can be. And so that requires some serious energy, and it's a high energy show, and it's I don't know how else to describe it. It's just a high energy show. It is what we do, you know.
So we have one final quote and one final fan question. So the only thing better than receiving kind words from a member of Econoline Crush is receiving kind words from all three other members. So this is from Troy Zach, bass player for Econoline Crush. He says, Trev has amazing scissor kicks. Always lands on the one. Haha. So that's from Troy.
Ha! You know what's interesting is Troy and I in our other life, like I work as a psychiatric nurse in the wellness center um, with addictions, and Troy works with addictions in the downtown east side. He is a saint. He is a wonderful bass player, and he's a good man. I'm very lucky. I have a great band. It's not always easy to find the right guys to play with, and I'm blessed having those guys in my band for sure.
So our final question is about your career. This is from Elizabeth Moon. Her question is, I would like to hear about his experience as a nurse and if he finds it difficult balancing his musical career and his nursing career.
I've been very fortunate in that my workplace is understanding of how important music is to me and how much it impacts my well-being. It's sort of my self-care. So nursing impacted my life immensely. So I'm a psychiatric nurse. I got a Bachelor of Science in Psychiatric Nursing from Brandon University. I have worked since 2016 in Indigenous medicine at Chinipwapka Dakota Nation and now at Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. I think that I have a greater understanding, I think, of the Indigenous situation in the country, residential schools, the impact of trauma from those residential schools, and the the inequality and some of the shortcomings of our country's treatment of the Indigenous people here. And for me as a nurse, balancing that, it's not as difficult as one would think. What I find really rewarding is that, like, again, going back to being from a small town, being in a band, having life experiences, having traveled the world, it all informs your life. And it has helped me be a pretty good psych nurse where I can relate to a lot of different situations, especially addictions. I've had, many, many friends that have struggled with addiction. So, and I think when my mom passed away and my father passed away, I promised both my parents, that I would always do my best to do good. And my dad used to say, be good fella, be a good fella, be a good person. And my whole life has been about that. I can think of many, many occasions where my parents were helping people out, helping neighbors out, and that's what you do when you're from a small town and in the prairies. You gotta stick together. The weather is horrible. There's lots of challenges, and so I think that has informed me and informed my career. So being helpful, being a nurse, being hopefully inspirational with your music, it all kind of comes and ties together, and hopefully in some way, somehow, I contribute to the positivity of the people that I come in contact with, or my art comes in contact with, and hopefully it brings joy and healing, and that's, I think, my, when I look at my life and I think, okay, well, what's the point of all this? I think that's my purpose, is I just hopefully can provide some joy and some healing and some words of encouragement and make people's days a little bit easier. And if that's what I can do, if that's what I can contribute, if that's my little job to move that stick closer to the one, closer to the creator, then that's why I'm here. So I hope that helps answer that question. I'm not sure. I went all over the map there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really inspiring. As we wrap up the interview, I just have a few more questions.
Sure.
You've accomplished so much. There, Juno nominations, platinum album, top 10 singles. Do you have any dreams that you're still working towards, things that you still haven't attained? Or have you accomplished everything your heart desires?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I want to play. I want to play some famous music festivals. I haven't played, like South by Southwest. Never played South by Southwest. Um, I never played Red Rock, that cool venue is it in Denver or Colorado? I would like to I don't know. I would still like to maybe get a small role in some kind of film. I'd like to explore that someday. But mainly, though, I think I will always be chasing having a solid single, a great song that connects. It's fun to just try and put something together that people love and that you love and that captures a moment. So I don't think it's mission accomplished quite yet. Uh, You come see me in 10 years, we'll see where we're at. If I'm
When
still here.
when you look back on your life and career, what are you most proud of and what are you most grateful for?
um, wow, that's a tough one. What am I most proud of? I think, when you today, like when you're reading those quotes to me, people are very kind and they say the nicest things, but genuinely, I I am glad and grateful for the band members and the friends I've made in the industry and the those experiences. Um, the awards and the things and whatever. That's one thing, but it's those human connection with people in the industry, and I'm so grateful and so like I have stories. I have friends that have lived really crazy lives, and I get to listen and talk to them, and so I'm blessed with that. Um, I I just the one thing that I learned, I think, when we had a big break and we weren't playing a lot of music, and now that we're back playing a lot more shows, I remember now to take a second and to look out over that audience, when we finish the set. And I look at the faces and I try and memorize as many faces as I can just because um, it feels so good to see them smiling and like just thanks, and you're ending the set. It's just that feeling. It's I don't it's just wow. Like I don't know how to, it's indescribable, but it's such a great feeling. Like, okay, we did great. They liked it. Good, good, good. And I think that every time that happens, it's like, it's such a great achievement. It shows you that all that work that you did and put in led up to that moment where they're able to enjoy your songs and it made their day better, hopefully. And again, it goes back to that thing. I just want to bring some joy because I don't know if there's enough joy in the world these days.
And if you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self and you could whisper words of advice, so you're taking all the life lessons since 10 years old, the experience, the mentorship, the lessons, the highs, the lows, the achievements, the failures. What advice do you whisper in cute little Trevor's ear at 10 years old to help guide him through this human experience?
You're enough. You're enough, just as you are.
And is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have supported you going all the way back to the early 90s?
Huh. I love you. Thank you for giving me a career. Thank you for just thanks for the memories. You guys have made my life. And Ziggy thanks you from the bottom of his heart.